Hello and welcome to another edition of the Sunday Interview, your celebrity profile program, which brings you closer to the real stories of your favorite people, told straight from their hearts. I'm Joke Lejadu. When a man's enthusiasm cuts across all sectors of life, one wonders how such individual relaxes. A former presidential candidate in Nigeria with many feathers to his cap, our guest today is an individual whose name is synonymous to integrity, with his experience cutting across board. From business to academics, politics and economics, he has a passion for the dignity of the human person with the spirit of enterprise and leadership. Wondering who our guest is? Well, you'll find out right after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Our guest today wears many caps. You can call him a professor. He's an economist. He's also a leadership coach, and of course, not forgetting presidential aspirants. He is Professor Patrick Okedinachi Utomi. You're welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
Now, let me start like this. Now, while growing up, would you say that your parents had any indications that you were going to turn out this brilliant?
Am I brilliant? Oh my goodness. Well, actually, when I was growing up, there was a very regular report on my cards in school. It's very strange that I go back to it. And reports used to run brilliant but troublesome.
Oh, nobody would have ever assumed you were troublesome at any point.
I was extremely troublesome as a child. That I calmed down as an adult in a way that shocks many people who remember me as a child. And the story is a great story of its own, of how I calmed down. At least I think that was how I calmed down. You know.
Okay, now, you're 58 and you're, of course, this fair. So I would have assumed that while growing up, you were fairer than this. Did you have any name calling as a child, and did it affect you in any way?
I have no recalls of those, actually. Again, maybe because I was so troublesome, everybody was afraid of me.
Oh, so you were the big bully in class, so it was easy to get away.
I was the smallest guy in class,
okay,
but I protected the big ones. I went to Loyola College in Ibadan, and I still remember the Loyola as the small guy who went to fight when you beat up a big guy. You know, that's how I was. Yes.
Nobody would have ever assumed that. Now, with all the awards, degrees, honors, and the likes, you've seen a lot and you've done a lot. At what point would you say you realized that you were cut out for the academia?
Well, actually, it was the ultimate paradox, because when I was leaving high school, I wanted to be an airline pilot. I didn't think of going to university at all. One of my very good friends had gone off to flying school in America, returned 10 months later, a commercial pilot, and we used to cruise around Surulere in his car in those days.
Okay.
And it was so much fun. I mean, I couldn't think of anything else. But my father played a trick, as it turned out, on me, and suggested, look, you best friends you make in life are friends you make in the university. Well, cut a long story short, instead of 2 years of fun
before going to
flying school,
you decided to go the whole all.
I ran into something called the library.
Ooh, and you fell in love with it.
Yes. Yeah, it's incredible.
You're no doubt a success story. Can you tell us some of the inspirations behind this success story? Well,
I don't know what success means, but many things have been guides, if you will. One of my great fortunes was running very early in life into the writings and the thinking of a man called Stephen R. Covey. Stephen Covey, the author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. In the end, I was pleased that I got a chance to share a podium with him as speakers before he died. And Covey, impacted me tremendously with the ideas of beginning with the end in mind. You've got to begin with the end in mind. What's the purpose of being here? The idea of living according to principles, just being driven by principles and not just short-term, immediate, what's everybody else doing. Sometimes it makes you look like a fool, but I've found in my life that in the end, you're a more fulfilled person if you're motivated from within.
Out.
If you're fulfilled from within rather than by
external
what people
things,
are saying. Yeah. So that's worked very well for me.
So give or take, books, authors, inspire you. Now let me ask you, how much of a family man are you? Are you in any way domesticated? Do you wash plates? Do you cook? Do you do, the normal, everyday chores at home? Do you help out? How much of a family man are you?
Well, it's interesting, the evolution of the man in this culture. Until I left to go to grad school in America in 1978, I never near the kitchen, because oldest male child, you're not expected to go near the kitchen.
Okay.
But it was strange, because as a child growing up, we had once every month, one Saturday every month, was called Daddy's Breakfast Day. My father would go in, and as kids we used to get enormously excited. Today is Daddy's breakfast. Today is Daddy's. We'll be singing. Of course, Daddy will always cheat. The breakfast will be so sumptuous, you think that everybody else doesn't know how to cook. Daddy is the only one who cooks. So I grew up with that. Yet I didn't, as a male child, whatever, didn't really. And I got to grad school, and I began to cook from cookbooks. And I became quite
a cook,
notorious as a cook. In fact, my Nigerian friends back in the US in those days, if they had parties, they come and beg me, please, can you cook something and bring, So I loved cooking. And then I returned to Nigeria. In fact, the first get-together party I held in late 1982, shortly after I returned, in Surulere there, I had old friends, Sam O'Neill, who was special assistant to the Senate President, Joseph Wires, a number of them gathered. When they were told, after they'd eaten and they were commending the food and talking, they were told that I cooked it. One of them nearly passed out. Okay, some in admiration, some in wonder, oh my goodness, have I just been poisoned? Tasted good, but are you sure you can cook? Then, of course, the Nigerian factor kicks in. Wife, don't enter my kitchen before your mother comes and says,
I'm using your head.
Yeah.
Now, do you have any of your kids who are, exhibiting maybe your kind of genius, or
genius,
or maybe pursuing the
kind of track
that you are currently?
Let me tell you an interesting thing. When I went to the University of Nigeria under those interesting circumstances from my father, the way that I chose what I studied was to close my eyes and put down the pencil. And before I closed my eyes, in terms of selecting a course, because I said, look, I'm just going there to spend a year or two having fun.
So I can be doing anything anyway.
So it doesn't matter. I said, if I put down this pencil, whatever I touch is, so long as it's not engineering. I don't know why, somehow, I don't know. As long as it's not engineering, I will fail. And I touched it, turned out to be something called mass communications. It was called journalism, actually, or something. I said, oh, well, okay. So I spent half of my life apologizing for it, talking about if I could do it over again, my first degree would be an engineering degree, and then a business degree. Now my children all seem to be heading to engineering school or something, but not quite. My oldest son started out in management and then has some media graduate training, even though he works for an oil company. But my oldest daughter is an engineer. So everybody has their own niche, their own path cut out. So I'm hopeful nobody necessarily wants to be me.
But they're doing great anyway.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask, if you had a child who came to you and said, Daddy, I would like to be a dancer, what would you say? How would you react?
A typical advice I have given is, whatever you want to do and you can be so passionate about it, you'll have a great life. It's a general advice, and I generally would offer it to anybody. But now I have a problem, because my wife is an associate professor at the College of Medicine at the University of Lagos. all of the children, nobody has gone the medical track. There's just one left. And she has all kinds of fancy ideas what she wants to do. And I keep hoping, I hope this one, so that she doesn't feel so bad. This one should go to medical school or something.
So that she will have someone who follows that.
Yes, you know. But outside the fact that kind of
resonates from time to time.
I won't have any problem with any child wanting to be anything.
Now, with all your degrees, it's very easy to assume that you have a head for languages. How much of your native dialects do you speak?
Very, very well.
Ooh.
Actually, I speak Igbo, Yoruba, and Hausa.
Right, because you were born in Kaduna, and of course spent
primary education in the north. Secondary education was in Ibadan.
No, so amazing.
And,
you cut across.
University was in the east. Yes.
So would you describe yourself as a romantic person by any chance? Do you have any bit of romance or all these?
That has been said.
Oh, has been said by by your wife.
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's good. Do you love football?
As a game, I think football is great, but I'm not into this Nigerian obsession with the English Premier League. In fact, it upsets me.
Okay, so you really don't have a favorite international
like I'm following
club
this team now. I used to have a favorite team, which is any team that is playing against one, followed by my children.
Oh, okay. So
I can have something to argue about.
Oh, okay.
So,
That's interesting.
And my oldest son is a Man U supporter, so I was for any team playing against Man U.
So Chelsea is playing against Man U, you're a Chelsea fan.
Yes.
Arsenal is playing against Man U, yeah.
Arsenal fan.
Are you a fair weather fan?
I recall one of those evenings I was coming back home and stopped by the home of the then governor of Lagos State, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And all his commissioners, and including the current governor, were there shouting. I said to them, "Gentlemen, what do you think you are doing?" "I support stationery stores."
I can imagine they would always have lynched you. Like, from where? Where's that coming from? Now, it's very easy for Nigerians to assume that you are an epitome of perfection, and I'm sure that a lot of people will find it very difficult to believe that, like you told us earlier, that you were troublesome at some point. So let me ask you, what was the worst social vice you ever did? You ever got into?
Social vice? Well, what a typical social vice is smoking, drinking. Never smoked, really. Never been an alcoholic or somebody. I drink an occasional glass of red wine at a meal. Never loved alcohol. Beautiful women. It's not a bad idea to look at. God is generous.
Okay, not the bad idea to look at.
Yes.
But how about the extra step of
You have to restrain yourself because there's too much trouble that comes with these things.
Now, so since you don't drink and you don't smoke, let me ask you, how do you relax, apart of course from reading and writing? Because I'm sure that comes to you as a part of you already.
Well, I spend time with the family. This will surprise many people who think that I work 24 hours a day. Yes, I do spend quite a bit of time working, but I also have a good fortune in the sense that I'm not a night person. And so typically, very typically, it will take something extraordinary to get me out of that routine. If you come to my house at 8 p.m. on any given day, I would be home. So dinner time with the family stretches a little bit, but after that, well, I escape back into my study or whatever. But yeah, that's one of the best ways to relax.
All right, now over the years you have of course mastered your trade, and with presentation of events and doing various leadership coaches and all that. Now, how do you prepare? Now, how do you go into the study, read? Do you get inspiration from above? How does it work?
Well, with certain things, after a while, some things just flow out of you. But certain things you prepare more for. and your own checks on references, I have a fairly well stocked. I have 3 studies in my house. So if I need to give a talk on something and I wanted to refresh myself on, and it's well cut, libraries structured properly, management books in one area, economics books in the area, political science books in another area, general reading text, So I would just go there and just look through, get something that is appropriate for the subject, and just scan for something. But because I try to keep on top of the general areas that I work in, I have a sense for what direction I'll travel. So to be fair, it doesn't take a long time to prepare.
We go on a short break now, and when we come back, you find out more revealing facts about Professor Pat Utomi. Stay with us. Welcome back. We've been speaking with renowned professor, economist, leadership coach, and of course, presidential aspirant, Professor Pat Utomi. Thanks for staying with us, sir. Now, going by the amount of libraries you have, and them being situated in your house, and maybe you have others outside your house, can you give us a rough estimate of the number of books that you think you can't even begin to imagine?
I've never tried to count. I just get books, and I think to be fair, the books I have are not all just because I buy a lot of books. I do buy a few, but I think people came to a conclusion that the only thing that I do is read. So every gift I get seems to be a book. so
okay.
Many of the books have come as gifts.
As a gift, okay. Now, this year we are really not seeing, a poster, a banner carrying Patrick Utomi for president. Now, is it that you are soft pedaling, or have you, or you've given up on that presidential dream? What exactly is it?
Running for office isn't a reason for being. Every time that I have done something like run for office, there is a motive. There is something that's driven it. I'll give you clear examples. We, as a social enterprise, the concerned professionals was set up as a response to the cancellation of the elections of the 12th of June 1993.
June 12, 93 elections.
And, I like to say, and I think there's evidence of it in several books that have been written, which we have been, quote unquote, called heroes of democracy. We put out some of the most stout opposition to military rule. And in the end, why did I make the list of those Abacha wanted assassinated? Why did the team that killed Kudirat Abiola, for example, have me on their watch list and tried a few times to shoot me and all that? It's because of the concerned professionals. Now, when finally military was, as it were, forced into retreating in 1998, as a group, the concerned professionals, we had a debate about what we should do. There were a few amongst us who said, now we must finish what we started, become a political party, show the direction the country should go. A majority of the concerned professionals, and I have to admit, with hindsight now, regrettably, said, no, we are professionals. It's our role in civil society to ensure that our country is well run, but let's let the politicians go and do their thing. But benefit of hindsight was a big mistake. I think the worst error of this country was 1999. People who should never have gone near public life, because the traditional politicians were not certain that the army had gone. A group of opportunists, including bagmen for soldiers and whatever. Well, of course, there were a few good people who had more trust that things could go okay, became those who took over in 1999. Nigeria has not recovered from that era, So somewhere around 2004, 5, some of the old friends in the consumer profession began to say, look, perhaps we made a mistake. Perhaps we should do something
be
about
involved,
it.
Yeah.
Because, this thing is not going the way we thought it should go. Then we founded a group called the Restoration Group. And it was this that resulted in my being asked to run in 2007. That's how it started.
Okay.
To set example, to essentially define issues for the country, because there were no issues in the politics. It was just personalities and,
Let me ask you this question. What would you say is your greatest fear as an individual?
Somebody I know who thinks I have no fear at all. That's not true. Because no, my greatest worry is that I will live and die, and these dreams of a better Nigeria will not be realized. It's a big fear. Because let's face it. If I had chosen to really go after making money, I probably should be an extraordinarily wealthy man today. But I've chosen to give most of my life to the common cause and all of that. And I wonder sometimes, should I have probably reversed it, take advantage of all the gravitas that came my way, build a huge personal fortune, and then turn to public service? Sometimes I wonder if I went that route, if my soul would not have been lost in the track as I accumulated personal wealth. I don't know. But it could be anything. But I fear that what's meant the most to me, which is handing to my children and their children this legacy of a great society, somehow is under threat.
You have various key positions in the country. Now, what would you say, or how would you describe the future of Nigeria?
If we could just get some politicians to behave themselves and not get the place to go down the way it could go because of their desperation for power, Nigeria's future is so bright. I like to tell young people that we all need to buy sunglasses, otherwise we will go blind.
us.
Really, I am very optimistic about Nigeria's future, but somehow we have to hold the desperados off, and they're in the political arena.
Now, Patito's Gang was a very loved, program on TV, and you hosted it. What was the inspiration behind Patito's Gang?
Was to create an electronic market square, village place, and the basic concept was, if you remember, in the early days, we all wore shirt sleeves. The idea was, these fellows have all gone to work. They're coming back from work. They've stopped by the home of one of their friends because there's traffic out there, and they just
need to
shooting
unwind.
breeze on what's going on around them. It's a little bit like how my home was in 1984. I used to live in a lovely place called Eric Moore Close in Surulere.
And people will stop by and you
people are coming back from work, entering Surulere, the serious go slow. You're coming, you get to Eric Moore, in this nice, lovely street, or close it was, and you come into this bungalow, big, huge living room, so we all just unwind and shoot breeze. So Patito's Gang was just a recreation of my home in 1984.
Now, would you say do you have any unforgettable memories or experiences you would like to share?
Good or bad?
Good,
bad,
somewhere in the middle.
I played all kinds of pranks in life, and some of the pranks have backfired very badly. There's one I never forget. I was an executive of the Student Union. I could give you two actually from my undergraduate days, and then come, so executive of Student Union. I travel, I come back. I was dating a lady back on campus in those days. And I got to the student union office and called her, and called her hostel. And she comes to the phone, and because we tease each other, all kinds of things. Well, I said to her, by the way, your boyfriend had an accident on the way she was coming, and he died. And that was me talking. I was thinking she was going to say, silly you, welcome, where did you get? And she threw up the phone and screamed and started shouting in in the Potter's
Lodge.
It's me. But the phone had gone, and oh my God, what have I just done? So I got out of the student union office as I run into the hostel. As I came down to the hostel, half of the hostel was already down holding her. I felt such a fool. So you got to be careful with.
And it wasn't April Fool, was it?
No, it was just the regular jokes, but somehow she missed it.
I can imagine. Now, so there was the second one you want to tell us.
The second one from those undergraduate days, on the serious side, a story I like telling to encourage young people today who think that, oh, they won't let us do this. In those days as a student leader, I thought that government should not be able to make policy without consulting us students. We had a right
to at least make an input.
Yeah, and one of the most serious areas of policy in Nigeria in those days was foreign policy. That was the liberation struggles in Southern Africa and all of that. And we were really engaged. And so I wrote the foreign minister, invited him to come and debate us on Nigerian foreign policy. Of course, I didn't get a reply. So I promptly got in the car and came to Lagos, went to the foreign minister's office. Told the secretary I'd come to see him because I wrote a letter, I didn't get a reply. She was like, look at this boy. What do you
Who do you think you are?
Yeah. So I said, he says, okay, go back. Write this letter to the dean of students. Let him route it to the vice chancellor. And I said, and then the vice chancellor route it to God. She looked at me and said, look at this precocious boy. Hey, let him go to God. I said, by the time he gets to the foreign minister, I would have graduated. He said, don't worry, it's okay. It's part of your successors will follow.
Okay.
So I went downstairs and I said, look, when does the foreign minister arrive? And he said, oh, he should be here shortly. He was still saying we should be here. His motorcade pulled up.
Okay.
Out comes this tall brigade of guards officer who had just announced the coup that brought the government to power a few weeks earlier. Basketball player, he looked 20 feet tall. And I said to him, Colonel Garba, I disagree with your position on Angola.
Ooh.
He said, who said that? I said, me. He said, why? And we began to argue. In those days, we all were very well informed. I read Time magazine cover to cover. He said, we began to debate the issue, and walked past the secretary and walked into
And then she would have been like, what just happened?
What just happened? And he came to Nsukka at my invitation.
Wow, that's great. That's very inspiring. Now, finally, let me ask you, tell me something about yourself that you think Nigerians deserve to know but don't know. Something about you.
There is nothing in me that is worth anybody bothering to know. But what is it about me? I'm just a simple guy. And I think it often shocks people when they walk into me anywhere. There's nothing about me. Just another piece of clay. Just struggled to do a few things I was taught by my parents. Had a lot of God's grace working for me. So.
Well, we've been having so much of an inspiring time with Professor Pat Utomi. This is, of course, the Sunday interview. Thank you so much for coming on the show, sir. And, of course, thank you for watching. I'm Joke Lejadu. See you again next time.